Welcome to Liberate University.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Liberate University. Welcome back, Annelise.
Hello.
And we are talking about a little bit about the coronavirus today, specifically on the fact of how people have been processing. And Annelise is an amazing alignment coach. And as you know, I'm a hypnotherapist, and it's all about, being in that right state and helping people overcome the situations and the challenges that they face in life. And I think that this coronavirus has just literally slapped the face of so many people and caused the stages of grief to happen, and really, really shined a light on the new stage of grief that has been added in recent years, which is shock. Okay. And we want to talk about that, all of the stages, and how to be prepared so you don't go into it when we enter into another wave of this.
Yeah, which we'll see in November. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
It's just how it is.
Yeah. Which I think, we can start out talking a little bit about that and then getting into it. But I want everybody to be prepared, right? This time around, I don't think people were prepared.
Yeah. I mean, we just kind of got sideswiped in a way. It's interesting. There's been a lot of stuff floating around for a while that has kind of been trying to get our awareness on many levels of prepare for something like this, get systems structured and in place to really be prepared for things like this. And we just weren't, and we didn't. And, what happened has happened. But as Cristina said, how can we really prepare this time for the next wave that comes in with the virus? So
yeah, and on that, thinking about where you are and what you've went through during this and the lack of us being prepared, and I would kind of add to that naivety of thinking that we're okay and we're fine. And I get it. It's been over 100 years since the last pandemic, and it's not in our consciousness. It's not in the awareness. So there's been a lot of people talking about many different conspiracy theories, whether the virus is even real and different things like that, along with just complete denial and all of these other things that go on, which if we kind of look at for a moment, what are those stages of grief, right?
Yeah, and so the actual stages, which they've just added shock, and then the next one is denial.
Yeah, and so have you experienced that? Shock, denial, and then it's...
after that would be
bargaining.
Anger, actually.
Anger, anger, then bargaining, then depression, then acceptance.
Correct.
Okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So think about that. Shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know where you were at in that, but some of you are within a few stages in, and you can look back and you see, I think I'm finally to the acceptance stage. Took me a little bit to get there. But I can see where I went through each of these different stages. And I mean, I don't know about you, but most people didn't they go through massive shock?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think whether you were aware of this coming or not, there's still a shocking component when your reality completely shifts like that. And it's not even something you have control over. It's all of a sudden these regulations and these restrictions are put into place. So whether you get on board with the virus or not, your reality has been shifted, period. And of course, that's going to create some component, some response of shock. I mean, even I went through it at first where I was like, what?
Yeah, and it's the state right before denial. So this is the part where you're kind of numb and you're frozen. You're don't even know what to think. Mm-hmm. And you're just kind of paralyzed in a way. And if you felt like that, where it wasn't like you felt an overwhelming sense of emotions of any sort of way, but you just felt numb. Mm-hmm. And
yeah. Absolutely. And I think what's really interesting, I mean, the shock, I know that there's still some people that are in that space. And by the way, this is a nonlinear pull of emotions. It's okay if you go through the shock and then through this whole process of grief and then bounce back. It's all circumstantial and very normal. But I think it's really interesting to move into the next phase, which is denial.
And denial happens.
Dude,
and
it's
it,
happening still.
Well, yeah, it's happening.
Yeah.
And it might be happening to you. It's happening to me. Oh, this isn't so bad. It's going to be okay.
It's not real.
It's not real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there's huge components of denial, and I think that's, again, like, of course that's a natural response, obviously that's a scientific proven thing, but the denial is so complex as well, internally too. It's like, what are you denying with the external climate, in like acknowledging or observing why are you denying it, and what is that telling you about yourself? And maybe ask yourself some of those questions. What are you denying in yourself about the experience? So
yeah, and how this denial is showing up, I think, even a big way. So when Annelise was talking about you go through and then you kind of go back, it's because everything is like an onion. It has so many different layers. And so even if you process one layer of something, you might not process all of it, right? You might, going through a stay-at-home order, you might have had your own process, but then dealing with this virus or the changing of society for eternity or for years to come, right? Yeah. You might have a different kind of thing where I think it's important. I think not everybody, but a lot of people I talk to are in super denial that this has impacted their life for any kind of longevity. And they think that everything's going to bounce back and suddenly we're going to be back where we were in January in a couple months.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Like, the biggest denial that I'm seeing is literally what Cristina said. It's just, it's okay, like May 15th, everything's gonna go back to normal and then it's gonna be fine, and that will be weird, and then enough time will go by that I'll become comfortably numb again into my routines, and so be it. It's not gonna happen. I'm gonna be real with you guys right now, like astrologically, intuitively, instinctively, economically, scientifically, it ain't going back. So here's the thing. That's, I think, probably the bigger denial that we're seeing, and something to be aware of in yourself. Like, because when you deny, you cannot move through the stages. Like, if you stay in denial, you're not going to be able to go into the next phase, which ultimately leads to your healing.
Which leads to acceptance, which if you can't get there, right?
Yeah.
Which, I think that look at how this has been on a microcosm for the stay-at-home order, because I think that was a huge thing for people. Like, I'm going to lock in the house, this and this and that. And then people are used to it now. Like, now that it's been, like, a little bit of time, more people are kind of, well, this is just how life is.
The new abnormal.
Yeah, the new abnormal. But the bigger things, like Annelise says, I mean, just do a little bit. What can help you get out of denial is to actually pull yourself and think about things for a minute, right? Get some of these facts, like whether you tap into your own intuition, whether you look at, astrology or other metaphysical stuff, but then let's go back, economy. Okay, hello, we have more unemployment now than we did during the Great Depression as far as percentage-wise. We're approaching 30% in America. Great Depression was 20. So, like, if you think about that, and then all of the different stores and the different businesses, how are they going to recover? Tourism, all of these different things. I'm not saying this is doom and gloom, because I do believe that we always will create a solution, and we will improvise, and we are resourceful beings, and we are super creative. But the way that we know it, I mean, there's not going to be massive tourism in cities like Hollywood or other places that thrive on tourism. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes on forever. Like, it's just an endless pool of like economic structures that are just going to have to be reworked completely, and in a short period of time. Like, we're looking at a very like over the next 2 years, like destruction of structures, especially the remaining of this year, and forcing and giving way to new economic structures, new political structures, new like personal freedoms and lack thereof. Like, this is a real thing. And
this doesn't have to be bad. I know it sounds bad, but it's through that, more millionaires came out of the Great Depression than any other time besides the tech bubble. Like, we are going to move beyond this. That's one thing I can say. But will it look the same? No.
Not at all.
And when you can get out of that and not be so attached anymore, you can move to the next stage.
Right. Yeah. So definitely agree. And the next stage is anger. which is definitely understandable. I think some of the anger components that I've been seeing come up in clients and myself even at times. Anger, so this is really interesting thing that this monkey Monsignor actually told me when I was living in a monastery, where he goes, anger and depression are actually the same thing. It's just the viewer is different. And so he's like, anger is when you're mad at things outside of you and you're like blaming things around you as the reason that they are the way they are. And depression is where you are like blaming yourself and going in and feeling like, oh, like this is all my fault. Like I'm a terrible person. I'm never going to get out of this, blah, blah, blah. And I say this because what is the anger that I've been seeing as I've been working with clients and helping them through each stage of grief to get them to acceptance? The anger component I've seen directed again towards the outside, like anger towards the living situations, anger towards the government for really having a poor response time to the stimulus checks and unemployment disasters, where people,
anger to the computer and the internet because
technology.
There's too many people logging on to the portals and they're crashing.
All of it, yeah. Like
anger towards the testing, anger towards
all of it.
Their friends or roommates or lovers or family that they're living with that they're getting angry at.
Yeah, just because, I mean, we're all so sensitive and triggered and vulnerable right now. And like all parts of us are being challenged. And so it's very natural to be hypersensitive and to really get reactive towards like you said, like roommates and partners is the reason why you're not having the quarantine experience that you thought you would be having. Like, you know, it's like, this is the anger stuff that's coming up. And it's important to just shine the light on that, acknowledge it and be true. Like, don't be in denial, like acknowledge the fact that there might be some anger. Like,
and feel it, because it needs to come out.
Absolutely.
That anger is this wounded sense of yourself. You know, what is on the opposite side of anger and depression is love. And so there's a lack of feeling love or betrayal towards the love of yourself. So like if your life isn't going the way that you want it or other areas, which is Annelise is saying, how would you look in that and make you and take it inward instead of always putting it outward? But don't forget to feel it.
Yeah, it's also like, it's incredible how these stages, when you really like peel back the layers of the onion and look at it, these stages really do build up on each other, which ultimately lead to becoming your own inner authority and just like your own leader and not giving your power away. So it's like denial is giving your power away. Anger
giving your
power away.
And then the next one, which is bargaining.
Yeah. Giving your power away.
You're justifying. Another way of saying bargaining is saying justification. This is the way because of this, or I'm gonna be okay with this because of this, or whatever the case may be. But you're allowing yourself to start to bargain, and you're starting to there's not a real listen to your truth, and there's this justification or this bargaining that is going on within yourself, within the circumstances that are around you.
Yeah, and I think another component of bargaining as well is like this concept of compartmentalization, where it's like, well, if I have this, like, I guess I'll have to sacrifice that, and like I can't have it all, and really moving into a position like, well, if I give up on that, then that gives me this. And that's part of the bargaining component as well that I think can be overlooked sometimes, where honestly, like, you don't have to do that. Yeah. Like, you can have it all. The question really becomes, again, as this whole process is about growing up, And
part of bargaining is self-sacrifice, right? Definitely. You know, and it's also not being true to yourself. And that's why I believe it leads to the next phase, which is depression, because you've bargained away. It's almost like when you say that you're okay with something for so long and you realize that you're really not, and you become numb to it. And then you end up like, if you compromise and sacrifice your own well-being and your own emotions, maybe you put yourself second fiddle in a relationship or something else, and then over time it eats at you and you end up depressed because you haven't been honoring yourself.
Could completely agree with that. Yeah, like when you do things that you know you shouldn't be doing, that aren't really honoring you, and you're giving away your power to circumstances, to denial, to anger, whatever it could possibly be, bargaining, you are like Cristina said, you are absolutely just you internally, subconsciously, emotionally, energetically have no one to blame but yourself. And that literally is what becomes depression. And I don't mean that like you got nobody to blame but yourself. I mean that in the sense of like internally, like your soul recognizes you chose this. Like you took yourself down this path, and maybe not consciously, maybe subconsciously. So be gentle on yourself.
Yeah.
But the point being is like, that is what depression is it literally is just this feeling of hopelessness of like, I don't know, how did I get here? Like
I bargained everything away and I've lost everything, that I don't even know where my power is inside, right? But after a little bit of time.
And well, actually real quick though, I'm curious, like how are we seeing depression show up in the current climate?
Oh, we're seeing that in so much right now. I think that people are feeling helpless and hopeless. I think that people are, they've bargained away, or they've found themselves in these states of frustration and outside stuff that then turns inward. And you're seeing it within suicides, you're seeing it within substance abuse, you're seeing it within, I mean, just the other day, I mean, depending on when this comes out, but a little bit ago, one of the top ER doctors in New York committed suicide over this. And you're going to see a lot more of that. And I hope that we don't have to get there. But you're also seeing it in people that if you talk to friends or family members or other people, that they're not getting out of bed. They're not, they don't have that motivation to do anything. You check on them and they're like, oh, they've just laid around and watched Netflix. They haven't really even took a shower yet. That's a manifestation of depression. They're not taking care or pride over the existence that they have.
Yeah, I was literally just going to say, I think the like deeper thing that's going on is the individual judgment, like self-judgment about like, I'm not showing up in the way that I need to. And you start to have these illuminations of where you've been giving your power away to structures and things that haven't been honoring you, and realizing like how many changes might have to be made. And it's really just putting yourself in a place where you just feel like you don't know how to show up for yourself. You don't know how to
get out of the
situation. Yeah, you don't know what to do. And that is something I'm seeing in the depression component, where it's like, oh my gosh, I've been given this time to like literally be my own boss, like be my own authority, make whatever I want happen. And I have done nothing with it. And that self-judgment and that self-deprecation really comes in. Yeah.
And the feelings of hopelessness where like, I think when Annelise says that either way you brought your soul journey here, I get that we didn't create all of the outside climate. We didn't create personally the coronavirus or other things in our life. However, you always have power over how you perceive, act, and interact with situations, and whether the experience is your blissful space or your most painful agony space. And that starts within your mind. Even Gandhi, when he was in prison, he empowered himself to have a powerful thought process that he wasn't a prisoner in prison. And it all started with the mind. And so really look at that. No matter where your circumstances is or a thing, it's about having empowerment. Because if you're going to get out of the depression stage and pass through any of this, you have to feel like you have control in your life. And that's where you get to acceptance, because you say, okay, this is what it is. Now I'm going to navigate and play around in it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, completely agree. Which leads us to the next phase, which is acceptance. Yeah. So I think that this is an interesting one. Obviously, we know what acceptance means. But this is interesting because I don't think the vast majority of the world has arrived to this place yet.
Oh.
Something, just a hunch, so just a hunch, but yeah, the acceptance component, what does it mean to really accept something? It means that you've made a conscious and energetic effort to surrender to your concept of how things should be or what they look like or how they're supposed to pan out and play out, and allowing yourself to surrender to a bigger force, like accepting the unknowns and the uncertainties, trusting in the unseen, and really just, moving forward. And that's acceptance. Just saying, I don't know. I don't need to know, but I'm just going to take the days as they come and just move with whatever is showing up at that moment. And that's accepting. Like, things are very unstable right now, and they're going to continue to be unstable, I would say, for 2 years. But really, like, every day it just like feels like, first of all, and I think Cristina can agree with this, and those watching, like, time is so not relevant right now. Like, timelines, time frames, like time speeding up, slowing down, moving in strange directions, and like connecting in weird ways. And life kind of feels a little bit like a plant journey, like a psychosequence, like out of your mind. Like, every day offers so much lessons, exhaustion, so much energy, so much new awareness, so much growth. Like, it's just so many things every single day that are coming at us. And you can expect to see that on top of your external world shifting, and really, like, all the way probably till about December, end of December, start of January to 2021. Yeah. And so
even through the next year, because then there's going to be a whole bunch of new building, right?
Absolutely.
But on that note of acceptance, another way of looking at that, and just something I want to add, is trust, right? Acceptance equals trust. Mm-hmm. You don't need to know what the future is unfolding, because you trust in you that you'll be able to figure things out and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, sit with that for a minute. That to truly accept, you don't have to figure out everything. You just trust, okay, it's going to unfold the way that it unfolds, and it's going to be okay. And I'm going to be okay to navigate my life within however the things unfold. And I can play a part in contributing to the way that things unfold, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. Trust it's the foundations of everything. And like, if it's not there, then nothing can grow. Like, you're not going to be able to allow yourself to expand into a new place. And I think it's just important to remember with all of this that, and we've spoken about this in previous videos, like, it's about just really accepting where you are and being okay with that. And then making a decided effort about, do I want to stay in this stage? Do I want to stay in this perspective? Is this really serving me to the direction that I want to go? Are these beliefs and these emotions really supporting me and how I want to experience my life, the ideas I have for myself? And it just learning to accept where you are, and then making a choice about, what do I need to put down? What do I need to focus on? And remembering that whatever emotional or mental obstacle is presenting itself is not wrong. It's your opportunity to transmute that seemingly negative experience into a new reality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally like,
and that's this whole experience as a collective and as a globe is transforming the seemingly negative experience of a pandemic into a new reality.
Totally.
Right? And if we do that on an individual level, we're contributing to doing that on a societal, a country, and a global level. Mm-hmm. So it all starts with you. You know, that powerful statement that change starts with you, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's just a huge shift in our perceptions, and like, no matter where you sit in life, like what you choose to believe, what you don't choose to believe, collectively, we all are having an expansion of the interconnectedness of all things, and how your individual life really is part of the thread of everything. And it may seem significant, but it's hugely significant. And so just with that awareness alone, the interconnectedness of all things on a global scale, not just an individual, like community scale, it is promoting a whole new concept of what being a human is, a whole new concept of what sharing this planet really means, and, you know, really illuminating where we've been separate and where we've been united. So,
yeah, I mean, and this is definitely foreseeing a strong, I mean, has anybody ever felt that you've been going through the same thing as the whole planet at once? I mean, this is a unifying force that is very strong.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not entirely sure in the history of this. I'd have to do my research. But even like the pandemics in the past were not as global.
Oh, no, they affected like 10 countries here, there, depending on the seasons, because they were war countries, and that's how it was being spread.
Exactly. And travel just was not
Yeah.
the same. Like you said, other than veterans traveling for like, it just is not the same that it is today. And so this is completely new.
This is completely new, and
Yeah.
we're more populated than we ever were before. In 1918, we only had about 1.5 billion people on the planet, and now we have 7.2. So I mean, there's a huge difference in population size. Collectively, what we're doing, and also the interconnectedness of media, that we can really tap in and see what's going on in a global climate. Whereas before, you might have gotten a paper that only showed you like an article that was really dated. It was something that was passed overseas from 2 weeks prior, and you're getting like, you're not really having all the interconnectedness.
Yeah.
But I want to touch real quick before we wrap up on this. Me and Annelise were talking about, what can you kind of expect? And I know that it's about getting to that state of acceptance and knowing that no matter what, everything's going to be okay, and really trusting. But I think that some of the things that caught us off guard was people didn't even have this as a concept of reality. And because I'm seeing, and Annelise, I know you're seeing too, is so many people in such a state of denial, and not even letting in or seeping in the possibility that life might be forever altered for a little bit of time,
I would even remove a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Because there's no undoing this. And it doesn't mean like there's no undoing the virus. It just means like there's no undoing. When you awaken to a certain level, you can't undo that awareness.
Yeah.
And that changes things forever. And that's happening.
I mean, even if the virus suddenly went away, the psychological imprint of everything that people went through,
Forever changed.
and the whole world being paused, and even the different ways that now people are preparing their coffee at home or cooking meals or doing different routines.
Yeah.
Like, life is different. And then there's going to be this level of caution that has now been instilled in people. And so that's going to create a ripple effect.
Yeah,
I mean, you still see things that people that went through a genocide or something like that, generations later, they're still having that impact within their family lineage.
Yeah. And what's really cool, and this was actually a pretty profound message at the start of 2020, and then we can wrap it up. But the one thing was certain. It was almost like we cleared out all of the karma almost up to this point within this lifetime. And it was interesting. It's like one of the messages was in 2020, it's like about creating new timelines, new karma, new framework. And what we do now sets up the reality for, 7 generations to come.
Wow.
And so it's just really important to understand that we're kind of in the reworking and the reframing right now. Where are you in your stages of grief, your stages of acceptance or getting to acceptance? And, how can you really start to empower yourself through the process of transformation instead of shutting down?
Yeah. And maybe even finding a little bit of fun in it. I know this is a serious time, and I know that there's stakes that are high of life and death. And I get all of that. But when you tap in on a spiritual level and you allow yourself to say, just because other people are suffering, it doesn't mean you don't have to suffer. And there can be a level of, I think that on a huge aspect, on a collective, there's been a longing for a shift to go on.
Totally.
For our foundation that has been really cracked and fragile to collapse so we can rebuild. So we can start doing things differently, taking care of the environment differently, having a different foundation and relationship to money, having a different relationship with our health and our well-being. And so almost it's like pow, 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 knocking it all down. So it's okay if you get excited about this. About get excited that things are shifting. It's a revolution that is happening, right? You see people like in old images and videos of revolutions, they're cheering, they're excited for the change that is out. They're not sitting there crying on the sidewalk. So, I mean, think of this as a form of a revolution, and I know that it's coming in a certain package, but don't forget what is the outcome that we're creating collectively to allow this to be a benefit.
Absolutely. Yeah, completely agree. Well, thanks for tuning in, you guys. Again, my name's Annelise Cherie. I'm an alignment coach and a Reiki and meditation practitioner. Thanks for having me, Cristina. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. And please like, comment down below. If you have any kind of topics or different things that you'd like us to do videos on, we can do and make some more.
Yeah.
So please share your comments and feedback so we can prepare more amazing things and thoughts and conversations for you to better your life.
Awesome.
All right?
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Cool. That was a good one.
That was a really good one.
Thank you for being a part of this class. We hope to see you at the next one.